What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for rocking with me on a daily and weekly basis. Thank you for going to zambonifunk.com, where we've got all type of cool shit on there. There's music there. There's a podcast there that we got a next one coming out this week with my man Brian Wilkins. We always have fun there in that space. Thank you for going and checking out the astrology course that we got coming up. It's called Astrology from the Ground Up. That is going to be so dope. We got some students coming in, and they are going to be tough astrologers by the time we get done. I'm real proud of the curriculum that we've got going on here, and that is going to be super dope. So if you want to check that out, you can find that at zambonifunk.com. If you don't feel like doing all of that and you just want me to do a reading for you, that's fine. I got that also. zambonifunk.com. There's a few options there, lots of cool stuff to do. There is plenty there at zambonifunk.com. And also, if you want to send me a little tip, that I appreciate you, boo boo. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week, we've got some things changing. We've got stuff going on and things that want to move around a little bit. One of these things is Mercury is going to be moving from Libra into Scorpio. So I personally like Mercury in Scorpio. Perhaps this is because I have natal Mercury in Scorpio, but Mercury in Scorpio is like not playing games with you. Scorpio is a penetrating kind of sign, right? You can think about the scorpion's tail is like a needle. It penetrates deeply and then injects venom, right? So like this is not the kind, we're not seeing a lot of sugarcoating going on with this kind of thing. We're not seeing a lot of like, it looks like a time. You know, with Mercury and Scorpio, there's a lot of opportunity to speak directly to whatever the thing is. And there's something about that seems potent in a moment when there's a lot of like weirdness going on. You're not sure where people stand with things. You're not really sure like what is really real in the world and all of that. And that is not going anywhere, right? We're not gonna not feel that sort of stuff where we don't understand what's happening. But if you can get a clear idea of what other people are feeling and thinking in this moment, then that can be really good, especially since we've been seeing all this Libra stuff happening for a while. Libra, sometimes you don't necessarily know where Libra stands on an issue because Libra sort of like wants to give it to you or to the other side and be like, well, let's make sure that everybody's feeling heard and like let's see about equanimity here and all of that. And that's really nice if what you're looking for is the cooperation, right? But if what you're looking for is honesty, then Libra doesn't necessarily excel at that. Mercury in Scorpio is very good with honesty, very good at sort of getting right to the heart of the issue, even if that can be a little bit of an affront sometimes. And so I like to see that sort of thing. Now, what's interesting here is that Mercury in Scorpio is going to be ruled by Mars, and Mars is a major player here this week and for many weeks to come. Mars is currently in Cancer, slowing down. We're getting close to a retrograde, so there's going to be a whole bunch of Mars in Cancer for the next like 4 more weeks or something wild like this. So Mars in Cancer is especially important this week because Mars in Cancer rules not only that Mercury in Scorpio, but also the full moon in Aries, which is also going to make a square to that Mars in Cancer. So this looks like, you know, in the middle of the week, we're going to see this full moon. Full moon is always going to be like big emotional energy. Stuff is going to be like sort of like popping off a little bit. One of my favorite images for the full moon in Aries is not an astrological image. It's a real thing that happened to me one time. I was like coming home from a show in New York, and I was like, the full moon in Aries was like shining, and it was like getting close to bar close time, and there was like, I saw, I don't know, like 5 or 6 people like outside the club crying because like some dude wasn't paying attention to them or had said something wild or something like this, and it was like a group of people outside, like, and so there's the one crier and then there's people like either trying to comfort that person or ready to fight that person. Like that was all going on, and it was under the full moon in Aries. So the full moon by its nature is like big feelings and all that, and then Aries is gonna like be ready to pop off and get something started, especially with Mars in Cancer. So Mars in Cancer is gonna be like prone to feeling threatened by things that are like hitting the sensitive spot. We can remember that Mercury is in Scorpio, and so ready to penetrate deeply, right? And so that Mars in Scorpio is, is ruling that Mercury. So if there is something that makes somebody feel threatened, then they might be ready to go for the jugular immediately, right? And so that could be a situation that kind of wants to pop off a little bit, kind of could be something that could be a little bit dangerous or something like this. So that is something to be aware of, especially in the middle of the week. It's going to be real easy, like especially if you're like a jokey, like I want to press buttons type of person, then like that might show up as a problem for you a little bit later in the middle of the week here. One thing that I do notice here is that Venus is going to be moving out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. Now, that is interesting here. I'm of two minds on it. On the one hand, Venus moving into Sagittarius puts that into Jupiter rulership, and so and then also making an opposition to Jupiter. So an opposition is like a major theme here. We've got the full moon, which is by its nature an opposition, and then got a T-square to Mars, and then that sort of like includes an opposition to Pluto in Capricorn as well. So like big opposition all over the place with that. Venus moving into Sagittarius puts it into an opposition with Jupiter as well. So this is going to be our benefics opposite to one another. Opposition is going to be some kind of conflict or tension, but that kind of conflict and tension might be something that sort of like gets something started or moves us in some kind of beneficial direction if we're looking at benefics doing it, right? So it might be the kind of thing where it's like it's difficult to get up and do your exercise or whatever it is, right? Like the things that are kind of hard or sweaty or difficult or whatever, that sort of thing, challenging. But there is benefit in doing that. You actually make yourself healthier and more comfortable by making yourself uncomfortable or putting yourself through challenges. That kind of thing is what we might see with a square or an opposition between benefics. So I like to see that. I also like to see so when Venus was in Scorpio, then the benefics were not, they were like off angle from one another. They weren't in conversation. And so they, there's so much wild malefic stuff going on, just like all the time these days. We've got Mars in Cancer being a major player and opposite to Pluto and Capricorn, looking like it really wants to like not only pop off, but like raise the field, you know what I mean? Like destroy everything. And so like that looks like a lot. And then also that Mars in Cancer is making a trine to Saturn in Pisces. And so, anybody in Scorpio is gonna, including Mercury, and then moving into next week, we're gonna see the sun there as well. Then that is gonna be a grand trine between whoever's in Scorpio and the two malefics. That looks like it wants to be a lot. And so then like just a lot of big feelings, and big feelings turning into challenges or things that are uncomfortable or that like wanna like elbow you in the ribs in some kind of way, like, and maybe not in a nice way, maybe like in a fun, jokey kind of way, but then also like, that hurt my feelings, like that kind of thing might be going on here a little bit. So, but that stuff is not, none of that stuff makes an aspect to Jupiter in Gemini or Venus in Sagittarius. Venus in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Gemini are like on a whole different vibe here. They are on an axis that isn't really interacting with any of that stuff. And so it's interesting here. Well, that's not true entirely. Saturn in Pisces does make a square to Sagittarius and to Gemini. So we'll see a little bit of that Saturn stuff going on here. So especially getting back to challenges that turn you into something more beautiful or comfortable or something like that. Like looking toward your long term is going to be a real big deal here with the getting benefit comes from a long term commitment or focus or something like that. But like a lot of what we're seeing here is that the nice stuff is not really happening in relationship to the difficult stuff. So the difficult stuff is not made better by whatever nice thing is going on here, but it looks like there's an avenue for nice things to happen that also isn't messed up by some of the wild, difficult things that are going on here. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Leave a comment.